Today, Bitcoin holds its ground above $81,000 as President Trump threatens more tariffs. Crypto payments firm MoonPay looks to expand stablecoin payments, and Paolo Ardoino of Tether discusses the stablecoin issuer's efforts to conduct a full audit. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Ryan Baker. Cryptocurrencies are little changed this morning as investors digest yet more positive news on the economy from wholesale prices. But as President Trump threatens major tariffs on European wine and spirits. By noon Eastern, Bitcoin slipped about 0.8%, but held above $81,000. Ether, meanwhile, gained 0.33%. And the BNB token rising 5% this morning after a report from the Wall Street Journal said the Trump family was considering securing a financial stake in Binance. The journal said Binance first approached Trump allies last year in an effort to regain access to the US market. We reached out to Binance and the White House about the report, but haven't heard back yet. Okay, let's keep talking about Binance as we get to the top stories. The company's CEO, Richard Tang, says President Trump could be a boon for crypto. Speaking with CNBC at the Converge conference in Singapore, Tang said Trump's recent pro-crypto moves could spur advancements around the world.
We have moved from a period where there's big regulatory uncertainty and in many sense some regulatory hostility towards the industry to one where the largest economy of the world said we want to embrace crypto, we are going to be pro-crypto. President Trump has appointed AI and crypto czar, highlighting the importance of these two fundamental industries. In these two fundamental technologies, driving all economic subsectors going forward.
President Trump's executive order directing the United States to hold on to Bitcoin seized in legal action comes as other countries like Brazil, Germany, Poland, and others consider Bitcoin reserves themselves. Next, MoonPay is expanding its foothold in stablecoins with a new acquisition. The crypto payments giant is buying Iron, a stablecoin infrastructure firm which will give businesses the ability to accept stablecoins through the platform. MoonPay's CEO, Ivan Sodorite, told CNBC's Squawk Box that the acquisition will help MoonPay become the definitive infrastructure provider for enterprise stablecoin solutions. We should mention that MoonPay was a CNBC Disruptor 50 company in 2022. All right, let's keep talking about stablecoins for our main story. Crypto World's Tanea McKeel spoke to Paolo Ardoino, the CEO of Tether, about the company's recent push to conduct an audit under the new CFO, and how the company is shifting its strategy as US policy around crypto changes too.
All right, Paolo, well, thank you so much for joining me again on Crypto World. Tether said earlier this month with the announcement of a new CFO, that it's also going to be pursuing a full audit of its reserves. Now, this has been controversial for the company in the past. You and I have talked about it before. It's never done one, only attestations. What is the timeline that you're working on for this audit, and what steps does Tether need to take at this point to get to that outcome and to the complete audit?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for having me. Definitely our full audit is a top priority for the company. Tether International Business will go through a full audit. We already have an engagement letter in our inbox from one of the big four auditing firms. So, of course, timelines might vary, but it's, again, top priority. So we hope that it will be concluded as soon as possible.
Well, so that is very comforting to hear, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The company has promised many times in the past that it would get an audit, several times about 10 years ago in 2015. So very early in the game for Tether. And then a couple of years later, a couple times post-pandemic, and then again this year. Why should investors believe that this time it's going to be different?
Well, the administration in the US is different. Everyone remembers for sure Senator Warren discouraging any top auditors to engage with crypto firms from 2022 and onwards, and even before that. There was a lot of skepticism on cryptocurrency companies. FTX didn't help the sector, I must say. So again, I can only reiterate that we are going to double down on our efforts in concluding a full audit. And that will be and will remain top priority until it gets done.
Well, let's move on. So you're in the U.S. for the first time, I believe. You were in D.C. last week, which was at the time of the White House Crypto Summit. I'm curious your thoughts on what happened there. What do you make of the outcomes of that event? Attendees seemed like they were really energized and invigorated. The market was a little disappointed, though, particularly where the Bitcoin reserve and the crypto stockpile were concerned. What are your thoughts on that announcement?
Well, look, I mean, the crypto industry always wants to have more and more and more. I mean, 2024 was a great year with the Bitcoin ETF being approved. And this year started in a very positive way with the Bitcoin Strategy Fund announced. And the administration the new administration is very positive towards crypto. So I think we have to be positive. We have to keep working with the administration, with lawmakers in the US. Nothing should get or nothing comes granted. So it's up to us now to give the comfort and confidence that it's the right decision to support us, to support the crypto industry from the administration. And there is still a lot to build. So I'm very positive, and I know that everyone across the industry is working to make that happen.
The idea of the crypto reserve or the Bitcoin reserve really has been just such a big theme since Senator Lummis introduced it last year, and President Trump mentioned it in Nashville. It was one of his big campaign promises, which a lot have pointed out is really distinct from the regulatory overhaul that the industry is hoping for. Is there any reason for Tether specifically? Do you guys feel strongly about the Bitcoin reserve? Is there one reason or another that would benefit Tether directly?
Well, I have to say that Tether, full disclosure, is very heavily invested in Bitcoin. We support Bitcoin as a technology, as its philosophy, with that is basically financial freedom. We believe that Bitcoin is the best currency ever created. It's the only currency in the world that is governed by math and is not governed by humans, so that it does not fall into the trap of being manipulated or inflated, depending on the needs and changes of will of few people. So we are very excited to see that happening, and I think that is just the right thing. Bitcoin is the only asset that is truly scarce. There are only 21 million Bitcoin in that could be ever minted, and there are many more millionaires in the world than just 21 million. So just do the math, and it would just make sense for everyone to have a little bit of exposure to it as well.
At the White House Crypto Summit, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said, we're going to keep the U.S. the dominant reserve currency in the world, and we're going to do that using stablecoins. When you hear that, when you read that quote, I don't know if you were there, but what does that mean to you? What would that look like? And, further to that, what is your relationship like currently with this administration? And what have your discussions on stablecoins, which, are the most low-hanging fruit for regulation right now? What have those discussions been like? And are you hopeful that you'll be able to operate here in the U.S. soon?
Stablecoins are the best product for the United States dollar hegemony. Tether in particular is the company, and the USDT is the stablecoin that worked harder and hardest for the US dollar hegemony. We have been having a great success outside the US. We operate in all the emerging markets, developing countries. We see we have our user base growing up to 400 million users. We see an increase of 30 million new wallets per quarter. That is almost like Facebook social media levels, while we are simply a digital dollar. So that is incredible and proves. And we are very excited to see that Scott Bessent and the president and all the administration and lawmakers are recognizing the importance of a technology that Tether actually created in 2014. So to us we are very proud of that. We're proud of something that we created 11 years ago now, is being subject of both enormous interest, a lot of debate, and a lot of support from directly the most important people in the world at this point.
Yeah, I think people really are starting to see the importance of the technology. USDT is no doubt the leader in dollar-backed stablecoins. It's got just under a 70% market dominance as of this morning. How do you see the market of stables evolving? You've got some competition with Circle, which is, I couldn't help but notice, kind of been chipping away at your market cap as of this year, 2025. But it's not just Circle. It seems like everyone now has a stable coin. There's Ripple with RLUSD. There's the joint stable coin from Robinhood, Kraken, and Galaxy. If regulation goes positively, we're likely going to see U.S. banks start to launch their own stable coins. Senator Haggerty's Genius Act is being marked up and voted on the Senate Banking Committee today. So what is your outlook on this market, given all of the increasing competition and the positive movement in terms of the regulatory direction? What does all of this mean to you?
Well, I think that competition is great. What we're seeing from the competitors, though, is extreme focus on US soil and institutions. Tether success derives from focus on emerging markets, developing countries, and focus on building adoption, building infrastructure from the ground up, from kiosks, shacks in Africa, in the smallest villages in Africa, to bodegas in Central South America. We have been every single day in the trenches, in the streets, in every single city and small town, to build the adoption for the US dollar. So that is very unique to us. I see competition trying to, maybe incentivize the usage of their stable coins with the revenue share and all that. I don't think in the emerging markets will work. I think Tether built for the last 10 years the biggest financial distribution network, physical and digital, that humanity ever seen. That's why we welcome competition. We think that they would cover a section of the industry that we don't cover, that is the institutional base. I think that they will all compete with each other, but we are really not bothered by them.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.